Welcome to the Domestic Abuse Breakthrough Show, where we tackle violence against women and girls through education, empowerment and hope. Join Kate, a survivor and advocate, as she shares insights, strategies and stories that inspire healing and action. Together, we'll break the cycle and pave the way for a future of safety and strength. This show contains a trigger warning. And now, here's your host, Kate Beasley.
Here are a few highlights from my interview with Lou Feltham Smith, who is a survivor and founder of Miracle Mums movement in Brisbane, Australia.
She was suffering from extreme mental illness. She was depressed. She was having suicidal thoughts at 7, which is quite horrific as a mother to hear that your daughter doesn't want to be here anymore. And it was in that moment when she was crying in my arms one night and she said, "I don't want to be here anymore." And that was my catalyst for leaving. I was like, this is not about me anymore. This is about her. This is about them. And I felt in that moment that gave me permission to leave. He was extremely verbally, psychologically and emotionally abusive, but he never hit me. And it was because he never hit me that I stayed as long as I stayed, because I didn't think that I could explain it away as domestic violence because he hadn't physically touched me. But I could notice in his behaviour that it was escalating. It was escalating from the verbal and emotional and psychological abuse into the property damage. He was intimidating me. He was coming up within an inch of mine and the kids' faces, screaming in our faces, to the point where the kids were cowering in the corner. And it was starting to escalate into punching holes in walls. It was the throwing of furniture around the room, that real, exerting control. And that's why I think it's so important that every single person in a professional sense that deals with victim survivors needs to be trained in coercive control, and they need to understand what they're dealing with, because that's the only way we're going to get change, is if they start to understand exactly what the signs are and they can advocate on behalf of these victims who can't advocate on behalf of themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's not enough just to, like we said, it's not enough to just understand coercive control, because it's not black and white. They have the psychology of the perpetrator. It's absolutely crucial. Essentially, they need to understand what makes that perpetrator tick. They could give you a look out at a family gathering and nobody would spot it. But it carries a hidden meaning to you. And when you leave, you're in trouble. Or you could be on the phone. And it's the tone. It's never what they say, is it? It is a tone of voice that it's not going to be good, this. Yeah.
And so many times I've been asked, have he threatened you? Have you got evidence of a threat? And the answer is always no, because he's careful about what he says.
Yeah. And this is why I always say coercive control it's not black and white. So that's where we as professionals need to weigh that up. Is there a way that we can secure their safety without involving the police first, because and avoid that escalation whilst they're still under the same roof? And is there a way for us to get an easier crime over the line? And those are the things that police, if the police have been notified, also need to take into consideration. Is there a way to secure their safety before speaking to the perpetrator, and then gather, and then maybe be in a position where they can gather more evidence? I think that's really, really important.
There were many survivors that watched that body cam footage of Gabby Petito being stopped by the Utah police, that watched in horror. And I remember panicking, thinking, oh my goodness, oh my goodness, oh my goodness. she's a victim of abuse. And to the outside untrained eye, and I, say untrained, it looks as if she's a crazy, unhinged, irrational woman, which is exactly what the perpetrator is painting her to be. And he stands there calm, cool, collected. And you just have to look at two people in a room, a victim and a perpetrator, and I can spot it a mile off. Anyone that is trained and that has experience can spot a mile off who's the victim and who's the perpetrator. But yet police and court staff, including magistrates and judges, they don't seem to have the same awareness. They don't seem to see those differences that us survivors can see. So they really need to start listening to survivors and treating what we're telling them seriously, because we've been through it. We know exactly what needs to happen. We know exactly how to change the ending. We just need people to listen.
Yeah. The professionals, what would be your pearls of wisdom that you'd like them to take on board?
I guess I would say, again, listen to survivors. Take what they're saying seriously. Just open your minds for a moment and just, instead of discounting, not as bad as it's coming across, it's not that big a deal. Just open your mind to the fact of, okay, what if she is telling the truth? What if all of this is true? What then? Because I think if they actually stepped back and stopped downplaying things and trying to justify the reasons behind the reports and what we're saying, just play devil's advocate. Just what if it is as bad as she says? What if it is worse than she says? Because that is often the case.
You can catch the full episode by clicking the link in the description or by heading to my bio on UK Health Radio. Until then, stay strong, stay informed, and always remember, you're never alone.